Lafrance here, Stream of Consciousness series. In this video, we're going to be talking about George Lucas and Millennium Falcons. If you are, I'm getting close to 3 hours now. I think I crossed 3 hours actually. Just now, I think just past 3 hours. This topic, 5 minutes ago. Right, you have to go back to the beginning, watch the intro video if you're wondering what the whole Stream of Consciousness series is about. George Lucas and Millennium Falcons. Here we go. In the last video, I talked about why teenagers are frozen. I talked about the majority of adults living in this world of fear, and how for most of my life this has been the great challenge. I will not live this life afraid. I refuse, and I will not let my daughters see me afraid. And if they see me afraid, I'm gonna be like, "Yep, you got me. Daddy was afraid there," and I don't want to be that way, you know. And that's led to me looking at having a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 21-year-old, and going, okay, I think I did okay as a daddy. Which leads me to one of the reasons that I hope has been one of the effective elements is also one of the reasons why I wear a Millennium Falcon around my neck and a Rebel Alliance insignia around my neck. It's amazing how many like adults walk out and be like, "Hey, I see that. I like that. I like that." And I'm just like, you know, thank you. You know, half the time I'm walking by, because trust me, I will stop and talk about it. But here's why. George Lucas was an inspiration to me, and I'm talking about George Lucas back. George Lucas, when he made Star Wars, was not a normal adult. He was a little on the crazy side. So not only was he, and this is a very quick sum up, not only was he following this dream that he had about making this movie, you know, he made American Graffiti, and that got him in. If you haven't seen the documentary on it, it's really quite fascinating to watch. And not just because I'm a sci-fi nerd and I love Star Wars. This is a very fascinating human story where George he pushed past the envelope, the mockery, the threat to have the money pulled for making the movie, like the anxiety that he went through to where the challenge to drop his dream and just be like, okay, this was a stupid idea to begin with. You know, everyone thought that Star Wars in the making of that movie was going to be the greatest embarrassment until it wasn't. And we can talk about that for hours, but it was shortly after that George then made this decision, after, you know, kind of being punished by Hollywood for not putting the credits at the beginning of the movie. They fined him, and at the time it was a lot of money, $350,000, and he kind of went, I rebel. I choose to rebel against the institution, and he did he made two cardinal sins. He committed two cardinal sins right then, because number one, the first cardinal sin back then was you don't make a sequel to a movie. And you sure as hell don't make a sequel to a sci-fi movie. You know, sequels were guaranteed to be bombs back then, and so he said, "I'm going to make a sequel anyway." And the second cardinal sin was you never ever use your own money, like ever. That you have to be absolutely certifiable to use your own money, and he did that too. He basically bet the farm, and he won, big time. Now, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive him for the prequel series, but I'll let that go. The point is, when I am talking about the Millennium Falcon around my neck and the Rebel Alliance around my neck, throughout the series I've talked about rebelling against fear. You know, when I made Backyard Revolution, you know, I wanted to tell a story that I wanted to tell, and I loved everything that I did on HGTV, but I wanted to tell a story my way. I wanted it to be honest and vulnerable and authentic and tell the real story. And, you know, it was George Lucas's inspiration that had me make a 14-episode series with just two guys without, you know, knowing, if it was going to sell. And my wife has to be pretty much partially crazy as well to have backed me fully on this. But I love what I created. And I got to thank George as an inspiration to, you know, sometimes life's just an adventure, man. Sometimes you got to do something that doesn't make a lot of sense, and you know, whether I am whether I can look back and say this financially was the best decision. You know, I think part of my journey is kind of going, I really don't give a shit. You know, can I look back about what I created and be proud of it and proud of the story that was told? Yeah. And if my daughters are looking at me and going, Daddy had a glint in his eye the whole time, you know, even if this was a bit of a crazy act because it was an adventure, then I would do it again. That's why I wear a Millennium Falcon. And that's why I rebel against fear. I summed that up pretty good. I'm happy with that. All right. We are down to our final 2 here, I believe. And our next video will be about learning to be softer. Coming up.